The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.
Is this a MacGuffin? Is this another key that unlocks a door? Is this another clue to what?
Well, mostly, see, the problem you have with Obama's background and identity is that it's not a complete fabrication by an intelligence agency. It's grafted onto some real-life data. In other words, here you get a kid that there's some deep secret at the birth, some identity secret that is just too deep and dark or can't be revealed, it's manufactured, and then the cover-up starts there. And once you begin fabricating, so you're grafting fictional onto real, and that's where it becomes very tricky because it's confusing. So, you know Obama's been in Indonesia, and the idea is, well, it was Lolo Soetoro, who was this student at the East-West Center from Indonesia who married Ann Dunham, the second husband, and brought Obama back. And then you get into the file, and you realize that, the Ann Dunham really didn't want to go back. She tried to get the Immigration Naturalization Service to extend Lolo Soetoro's time. The INS would not do it. They go back into, the period of 1965. Obama's 4 years old. This is one of the most violent times in the history of Indonesia.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Because you've got the Sukarno, who's been in power, and Suharto, a Muslim who is taking over in a coup the CIA engineered.
That's right.
And yet somehow Obama skates through this without any obvious notice or reference that's going on around him and survives in a period of time when there's 500,000 people up to being killed in Indonesia, many of them Christians and communists. And there's not a mention of this in Obama's Dreams for My Father. It's all idyllic. So you begin researching, you begin realizing that he's living in the kind of royal section of Jakarta, reserved for the royalty, the family of the royalty, the family of dignified, honored people.
Yeah, but in spite of the official story, didn't Stanley Ann work directly for or with the U.S. Embassy?
Well, she did for a while. She, for a brief period of time, she mostly moved into working with the Ford Foundation. At first, she couldn't have a job. She was trying to do these teaching positions. The embassy hired her in a very clerical kind of menial position. She took the job, but eventually she surfaced with this.
But she had already met Lolo, right, and gone with him to Indonesia.
Oh, she went to Indonesia as his wife.
Right.
Okay, so that's the point is that she was already married to him when she went. And
she meets him when she comes back from Seattle and re-enrolls in the University of Hawaii and meets this Indonesian guy, Lolo Soetoro. And then he's taken back, if my understanding, tell me, to go in the military, or he's put in the military when he gets back?
He is in the military. In fact, he's immediately taken back. He was in the military when he came over, right. And he is immediately taken back, and he is put into intelligence position in the Army,
right.
And he's now made to serve in the Army. That's Lolo Soetoro becomes a Indonesian military. Now, the story as it continues is that then Ann Dunham falls out of love with him. They begin fighting. He becomes alcoholic, just like the first husband, the same story.
Right.
Of course, all these stories, again, are largely concocted. I mean, he may have been alcoholic. He may have, had all these problems. But Ann Dunham was not living with Barack Obama Sr. a day. They always had They always had separate addresses, and it's unclear what the marriage was like in Indonesia. Whether it was these open marriages, there was a lot of swapping partners and everything else going on. It seems to have been, again, another story that wasn't really told. There's hints of it, but you can't find you just cannot find the details on this because suddenly she's no longer married to Lolo Soetoro, and he's off with a young girlfriend whom he married. Okay, so this whole story of this happy family, and Obama goes into two schools. One of them, is a Catholic school in Indonesia, in Jakarta, while he's there. And the schools at this time were, increasingly requiring, the laws were passed that you had to be citizen to go to these schools. Now, he didn't have to be Muslim, but Obama took the Islamic instruction, and he was going to mosque, even in the Catholic school, with his father. And this is, again, well documented. The nuns were saying this. So, Obama was in Indonesia as a child, and the questions are, why was he there? What was he doing? Why did he have such privilege? Why did he lie about getting all this Islamic instruction? And then Obama goes to Cairo right after he's president, and he says, I've experienced Islam on, 3 continents or 4 continents, he said.
I heard the
and
call.
Then he, so he's claiming Islam when it's convenient, and he's not claiming Islam when it's not convenient. And so, you're basically dealing with again, another pattern of disinformation. Because, see, what makes these cases so hard is you get information and disinformation. Disinformation is information put there intentionally to throw you off track.
So if somebody's new to this discussion, or Jerry, what would you tell them?
Well, there's some very good books written on it if you really want to study it. I mean, it's well known. It's just not known like many things anymore, because our schools are so deficient in what we're teaching. There's a lot that people just don't know, including basic history. Anyone who's studied diplomatic history or the wars, the efforts in World War II to convince Hitler we were going to attack not in Normandy, but at Calais, all these efforts. Well, there's lots of literature. There's a lot of discussion available about how intelligence operations function. And, I mean, even if you watch some History Channel specials, you're going to occasionally find a good one where they are discussing these issues. But the vast majority of Americans just take what they're told at face value, if they take it at all, and don't realize that the function, the purpose of intelligence agencies is largely to lie. And to lie to us, lie to the people. That's the problem.
Final question in the segment. Do you believe that you know, and I'm saying knowing and believing are 2 separate things, but do you believe that you have a handle on the truth of Barack Obama's life?
No.
Yeah, great. That's the answer I was hoping you were going to say, because I get these emails that these people know, and I said, I don't know how you could know. These are simply, something like what happened last week, and again, it's hats off to you as always, but something that happened like it did last week, it just...
There's too much secret yet. There's too much that is not told. There's too many lies. There's too many records I can't get a hold of. There are too many mysteries and things that don't fit together. And it was done very, whoever put Barack Obama's, personality, his character, his documentation together, knew what they were doing. And it was done very recently. People forget that, the current head of the CIA, John Brennan, his security firm in 2008, private security firm, went in and accessed Barack Obama's records and sanitized his passport records.
That whole break-in where the
break-in, and so Barack Obama's records may not even exist anymore.
Well said.
In any form where you could get a hold of them and look at them and try to decipher them.
Even that, I was telling somebody about this yesterday. Even when that bizarre picture dropped of the presidential passport, they found a way not to ever see the numbers of the passport, or they covered things with their hands, and they said, "Here's the president's passport," and it was mugged itself. That if you were in clarity of seeing a passport, you couldn't have seen it.
Well, there were a lot of discrepancies about that. I mean,
and that's a one-of-a-kind passport. There's only one every year, and it's one.
Also,
issued,
I believe it had Barack Obama II on it.
Yes, it did.
That's not supposed to be his real name.
That's right.
I mean, the second is something that has to be on your birth certificate, and it wasn't on the birth certificate.
No, I agree.
So, there's so many of these things that, to me, I have no doubt that Barack Obama, we're dealing with a fictionalized, we don't know who Barack Obama is. We don't really know who his father was. He probably didn't know. The Immigration Naturalization Service in 1961 was not going to allow Barack Obama, the African, to get an extension of his visa. He claimed he was married to Ann Dunham, and this was the child, because they didn't believe it, and they put that in the record. One of those pages slipped out. We have that page. So, you know, who is the guy? What's his real name? What's his identity? How many countries has he been in?
Mm-hmm.
You read some of these new biographies that come out, it
Sure.
looks like Barack Obama traveled internationally very widely. Well, what passport did he use?
And where?
Why don't we have an account of what he was doing in those years?
Who did he tell Colombia he was? Who did he tell Occidental he was?
And, well, why does Colombia only, when they reported originally to the College Reporting Service, only say Obama attended 1 year? I have that record from them.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as we published that and wrote it, they changed it, said, oh, no, we made a mistake. It was 2 years. Well, no, it wasn't. In their records was what they sent me, which is he was there 1 year.
Yeah.
Now, again, all these things, the more you uncover them, the more you get into them, you realize the pieces that are missing, the pieces that don't fit together, and the light bulb's got to go off, and you realize you're dealing with an intelligence agency-created identity.
Wow.
And you're not supposed to be able to figure it out.
I'm going to pull it here. We'll talk again tomorrow. When is your piece going to drop?
I'm not sure. I mean, it may be requiring a lot more work before we publish anything, because this is getting to be a lot more there. And, you know, I'm seeing now a whole piece of, when I encountered this Sabood with Fuddy, and it was clear that Fuddy was Sabood, a member of the sect. When I saw the picture of the founder of the sect, which is pretty startling.
That's really startling. We have that. I'm sorry.
So, you know, before I'm going to get much more into this, I want to, you know, make sure I have a better grasp on the whole story. So and Ann Dunham, see, another thing, Ann Dunham was affiliated with the group. But she didn't join the group.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, some of the stuff that people are doing out on the Internet right now is a little ahead of where we really are. We know that Fuddy was a member. We know that Ann Dunham was associated, but Ann Dunham was associated with all these different religions, and it doesn't look like she really joined anything. She took pieces from what she liked, and, you know, it was kind of, I think, the final analysis, almost a pantheist. In other words, you know, any idea,
whatever was
okay with Ann Dunham. That seems to be the conclusion. At any rate, you know, Ann Dunham's a mystery too. We don't have all the Ann Dunham story.
What's the great story? It's what applies at the time. Home run. Thank you, sir. The video is special. Your work is always, and again, maybe the time will come.
It will, Peter. It always does.
Yeah.
Someone's got the file.
Yeah.
These things may take 50 years for it to develop, just like the Kennedy assassination.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, we're much further along in the Kennedy assassination today than we were. And, you know, hopefully before I'm gone, we'll have the opportunity to see the truth on that. Yeah. And it'll be the same with the Obama story. The truth will come out.
What Shakespeare say? Truth will out.
It's in the Bible. You can't hide the truth. It eventually comes out.
God love you, Jeff. Thanks, Doc. And we'll talk maybe as soon as tomorrow. Thank you. Dr. Jerry Corsi. Again, the website, 710knus.com. Watch the video. Back right after this.
The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.